Yeah. Up, we're good. Good, Baruch Hashem. Seventh time's the charm. So we're traversing through the Ta'amim of Rav Kook Sefer Beishmilin. We are up now to the Munach Sagol. The Munach Sagol always, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there's any example of this, at least not in the Torah, where the Munach Sagol does not come in a pair with the previous Tam that we did last time. The Munach Zarka. So we have this pair of time coming in unison all the time. Sometimes there's a phenomenon where you'll have two Munach Zarkas, then followed by the Munach Sagol. But it's always coming together, these two, the Munach Zarka and the Munach Sagol. So just to start off the conversation. So the Gemara in Bava Basra on Daf Ayin Hey. God will at the end of days, he will perform a gladiator show. A kaniga is a Greek word that connotes the idea of some type of a spectacle, some type of an entertainment of violence. A show that is done for entertainment that is violent in nature. And who are going to be the participants? The Levyason and the Malach Gavriel, as it says in the pasuk in Iyov. It's like right. I will pull the Leviathan out with a rope, with the ring that is fastened on its nose in order to keep it secure. It's like you can understand like the imagery of like dragging out the wild animal into the arena, ready to fight whoever whatever hapless victim is. The Ilmole HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ozro, and Gavriel is going to face down the Leviathan, and if God didn't help him, Ein Yocholo, even Gavriel can't take him out. Shneimar Ha'osha Yigash Charbo, that he will draw out his sword and attempt to vanquish the enemy, i.e., Gavriel will attempt to take down the Leviathan, but God will have to intervene in order for him to be successful. Amar B'Yochanan, B'Shashel of Yason Roev Motzi Hevel Piv Umartiach Kol Yemos Shema Metzula. There is a series of statements by the Amoraim to give some scale to how great this beast is, and it's a series of quotes from Sefer Iyov. Iyov is the place in the Tanakh where we see a very, very graphic description of what the Leviathan is. It's like this sea monster that's part lion, part dragon, part whale. Very, 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 very scary, scary creature. God will eventually take this creature and feed it to the righteous. He will make a suda for the righteous. This is a statement that we see in Maseches Avos in Perek Gimel. We're now learning Maseches Avos in the afternoons on Shabbat. We're Perek Hey. This is in Perek Gimel, right? Hakol muchan l'seuda. That everything is prepared for the Su'udah, right, with a capital A. Yeah, the Su'udah, the feast. This is the feast. Sorry? Capital Hey. I was making a joke because the hey is the definite article. Yeah. Shne'emar yichru alav chaverim. That's also pasuk in Iyov. Yichru, this word yichru, ein kara ela su'udah. It has the connotation of preparing a meal. Shne'emar, as it says in the book of Kings, vayichra lehem kara gdola, that he prepared for them a great spread, right, like a spread of food. Vayichlu vayishtu, and they ate and they drank. Right, expounding on this su'udah, and the theme that came before it, that there will be some type of a spectacle that will be experienced before the Su'udah. So these 2 points are connected very explicitly in the Midrash Rabbah in Sefer Vayikra, in Parsha Yud Gimel. Parsha Yud Gimel. Midrash says the following. Amar Yudan Ber Shimon. Kol Behemot Yasam Kanigan Shel Tzadikim L'Asad Lavo. There are really 2 monsters that are mentioned at the end of Sefer Iyov. One is called the Behemos, and the other one is called the Levyason, or in English, the behemoth and the Leviathan, right? Behemos, animals, plural. So it's like an animal that is plural animals because of its size. So it is the behemoth, the animals. So the behemoth and the Leviathan are going to perform a kanigin. They're going to perform a gladiator show for the righteous. You have to understand like what it's being described. The Leviathan and the behemoth are sitting in the middle of the arena. They're duking it out, and the tzaddikim are in the stands eating popcorn and watching what's happening. This is the apex of history. This scene. Okay.
Gabriel's not there anymore.
Oh, that's a good question. That in this version, Gavriel isn't there. In this version, Gavriel isn't there. What's the significance of that? That's a good question, right? It seems that this is like the final showdown, right? You can infer. I'm just thinking of this off the top of my head, but I think it makes sense. You can infer by the fact that the Gemara says that that Gavriel is not an adequate match for the Leviathan. So God has to step in and pinch hit, so to speak. He says like this is not going to work. You're not a good match. So he has to replace Gavriel, so to speak. But be that as may, I'm not sure. That's just like an initial, just pontificating of here. So he says, "Umos ha'olam ba'olam hazeh zochen l'rosa le'olam haba." Someone who has not seen the kanigin of the Umos ha'olam, who has not seen these spectacles that the nations perform in this world, they'll merit this in the next world. It's unbelievable. It's saying like, listen, in the end of the day, okay, it's not nice that they put these slaves and they have them eaten by lions for entertainment, and the Caesar gets to do thumbs up, thumbs down. It's not nice, but at the end of the day, it's like it is kind of fun. So you missed out on that. You missed out on that show in this world. So this is what you'll get to experience in the world to come. Okay, okay, so God is going to feed the flesh of these creatures to the righteous. So how do they become shechted? It's a good question. Yeah. Like the Gemara in Chulin says that meat is bechezkas iser. Meat is presumed forbidden. Like meat is a forbidden object. That's the baseline. Meat is a forbidden object. If you go through a series of very, very specific steps, then you're allowed to eat it. It has to be slaughtered in a certain way. It has to be salted. The parts of the body have to be removed. There's very, very long series of steps, and then you can eat it. But it's presumed forbidden. So how is the flesh of this animal, the behemoth, how is it made permitted? Behemos noates lelevyason. The behemoth is going to gore the Leviathan, the karnav with its horns, the karo, and tear it. Velevyason noates lebehemos besnapirav nochro. And the Leviathan will strike at the behemoth with its fins. Meaning they're going to do it at the same moment. Yeah, so they're going to slaughter each other. The Chachamim Omrim Zu Shchita Kasherahi. So the sages who were sitting in the Beit Midrash listening to this scene and saying, "Is that a kosher shchita?" It's such a Jewish question. It's like that. That's a kosher shchita. Yeah. So says the Gemara. Says the Midrash. V'lo kach taninan hakol shochten uvachol shochten chutz mimagal katzir. It's a Mishnah in Maseches Chulin that any object is permissible to slaughter with, and any individual, any person is allowed to perform the slaughtering, except b'magal katzir u'magera hashinayim ibnei shein chonkin, except for objects that don't make a clear incision because they don't actually cut the animal, but they strangle it. Like nochro is to strangle, meaning it's not literally strangling, but anything that isn't a clean incision is invalid for slaughtering. Right? As we know, the knife that's used for shechita has to be very, very sharp, and there can't be any blemishes. So how can it be that the goring of the goring of this monster and the slicing with the fins, that's obviously not a good. It's obviously not a good shechita. It doesn't qualify for a good shechita. Rabbi Amon Bar Kahana, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Torah Chadasha Meiti Teitzei. God declares, I'm going to teach a new Torah at that time, which is in itself a very powerful statement. The Tzemach Tzedek explains, and I believe this is also stated by the Rebbe in one of his sichos, that what this means is, right, there's a reference here. This the Rebbe doesn't bring, but I'm citing this source as assistance to what the Rebbe says. The Medrash Rabbah in Koheles says, "Ein doma Torah shel olam hazeh leTorah shel yemos HaMashiach." That there's no comparing the Torah of this world to the Torah that will be studied in the time of Mashiach. Meaning, the Mashiach will bring about the ability to have insight into Talmud Torah that wasn't possible before. It's not, God forbid, that there will be a replacement Torah, but that there will be new kochos, there will be a new renewed prowess in the world to access Torah with the advent of Mashiach that didn't exist in the world. Like Rashi, in the first Rashi on Shir Hashirim, on Ashkenim Neshichos Pio, kiss me with the kisses of your mouth. It's the Jewish people longing for the experience of Sinai, right? Longing to relive that experience. And God comes and says, yes, you will be able to relive that experience. Because in Yemos HaMashiach, there will be a new giving of the Torah, right, akin to the experience at Sinai, that it will be as if you're receiving the Torah again. You will receive new insights into Sodos HaTorah. That's what Rashi says. It's the secrets of Torah will be accessible, that which wasn't accessible before. So again, not a new Torah, God forbid, but being able to access Torah in a way that wasn't accessible before. So the Mashiach will explain to us how halachically this is a valid shechita. So this is the story. Okay, like we all got the story. What? So yes, for sure. The question is not, is there an imshal? The question is there any literal interpretation to this? This is a very, very big topic in the Rishonim, discussing, is this Suda a literal thing? Because the Gemara, when it talks about this, it says that at the end of the Suda, it goes into great detail about the menu in this thing. It says the first course is the Leviathan, the fish is the Leviathan, and then the main course, so to speak, is the behemoth, and then there's a mun and asis shel rimonim for dessert. Asis shel rimonim is like sweetness of the pomegranate. So man, condensed sweetness of the pomegranate, which I'm not sure exactly what that is. And then what do they do kos shel bracha on? What do they do a zimun on? They do that on the yain meshumar. They do that on the wine that has been waiting since the advent of time. That's a very expensive bottle. So since the advent of time, this unique wine that, as we learn in the Gemara and Avodah Zarah, the yain hamishumar is also an allusion to insights into reality that are inaccessible. Like we say, nichnas yain yatsa sod. Right, yain is gematria sod. So it's all right. It goes into tremendous detail about like what goes on over here. So the question is not, is there a nimshal? Obviously, there's symbolic significance to this. The question is there any concrete significance to this? So the Ravid says on Hilchos Tshuva, if I'm not mistaken, he says that the fact that the Gemara goes into so much detail describing what it is they're going to eat is a proof to the fact that there has to be some corporal reality to this as well. And the Ramban says something very similar in Shara Gimel, in his short work on the nature of Yemos HaMashiach and Olam Haba. He says there has to be some physical manifestation of this as well, which is very interesting. Anyway, so that's the story. Huh? Correct. Right. Because the Leviathan. Right. Exactly. Yes, that is correct. The Leviathan doesn't require shechita because it's a sea creature. Correct. Okay, we got the story. Good. So that we can go into talk about the Munach Sagol. So Rav Kook says in Munach Sagol, Oneg ha'anacha. And again, this is important to give just a two sentence review on the Munach Zarka, because both are harping on this idea of Munach, on this idea of rest. So there's the Munach Zarka. That's one version of rest, and there's another version called Munach Sagol. The Munach Zarka means literally resting and emanating. So it's resting for the purpose of emanation. We spoke about last time how what characterizes the rest on Shabbat is a spiritual rest, meaning however a person expresses their creativity during the week, they're meant to rest from that. So that's why it says that Talmidei Chachamim, and this is a Yushalmi, that's quoted by the Ramah in Siman Reish Tzadi Daled. It says that Talmidei Chachamim who learn all week, that's their creative outlet all week. So they should stop doing that on Shabbat. They should not do that on Shabbat. And people who are generally working during the week, they stop working and they engage in Talmud Torah. So whatever their creative mode is, they should stop that creative mode, because spiritual rest is also important in order to be able to zarka, in order to emanate later on. So that's one version of rest. It's resting in order to emanate outward. So albeit in the spiritual domain, but it's the proverbial sharpening the saw, right? It's like it's stopping to cut down the tree in order to sharpen the saw. But this is a different type of rest. This is more resting lishma. And as Rav Kook will describe, what is the nature of this resting for its own sake? Oneg ha'anacha, the delights of rest. Eden hanachas, the gentility. This is a word that Rav Kook has used a lot in the context of the Ta'amim. The gentility of rest. Mitgale b'kirbeinu achrei hazlifa hapnimit shel ravayat ha'ta'anug asher lahod ha'pashtut. It is a pouring out that we experience after splendor of simplicity. That's referring back to the first tam. The first tam is pashta, simplicity. Ha'olechet haloch va'aloz hininu chashim et ha'idun shel ha'menucha. We are now able to experience the gentility of rest itself. Menucha nishmatit, the rest of the soul. Mitalechet b'kirbeinu, which progresses within us. V'hazimra ha'mesha'ashat, and the pleasant song Otonu b'kismei ma'adonea. It sings to us with its magical pleasantness. V'hinenu margishim talalei chayim u'bracha b'kirbenu. We feel the dew of life within us. Menucha shlema, a perfect and whole rest. V'nachat ruach shel menucha, and the returning of the spirit that comes with rest. Ein sorech b'sheifot. And in contrast to the munach zarka, which is all about rest in order to be able to emanate outwards later on, ein sorech b'sheifot, there's no need for aspiring. There's no need for aspirations. Ki hamenucha ba'atzma hi ne'ima. Resting itself has a pleasantness to it. So again, it's not resting in order to gather strength for a future output. Rather, it's rest for its own sake. Hakol malei chemda umetek. Everything is filled with pleasantness and sweetness. Hakol nechmad v'hanaim noshev b'kirbenu beruach tzachtzachus, with a pure and refined spirit. V'hamenucha mitgaberet ba'atzmutenu v'hinenu memulaim b'leshad chayah. We are filled with the lashad. Lashad is like the fat, not fat and like the obese, but fat like the prime element of the thing. V'tisa itit, says Rav Kook. This is beautiful poetic terminology, but it's actually a quite powerful description. He says the experience is like a tisa, like a flight, like you're flying over, like you're hovering over something, a slow hovering. Mimal letachat b'ma'amakim shel nachat ruach, up above and all that below is visible, with tremendous ease of spirit. Umiyamin lismol b'ni'ima, and from left to right, the relationship between the left and the right becomes pleasant. Shel shalva matkefet otanu, and that peace, that serenity, becomes very resonated within us. Meaning he's talking about this relationship between the left and the right. If you see the symbolic representation of the munach sagol, it's called sagol because of its similarity to the nekuda sagol. Like the nekuda sagol is 3 dots. It's 3 dots in a cone shape, meaning you have 2 on top and 1 on the bottom. The munach sagol is also 3 dots, but it's inverted. It's like a pyramid shape. Okay, so there's this relationship between the left and the right, and this joiner in between. It's interesting. I was reading Rav David's Perush over here, and he says that this idea that Rav Kook is introducing, that the sagol is talking about an interaction between polar opposites and the joining between, that idea is not found anywhere else, and it's only in Rav Kook. But that's not true, because it's in Likutei Torah of the Alter Rebbe on Shir Hashirim, and he does talk about this, that the sagol, the 3 dots of the sagol, are talking about this harmonizing ideal, and this is what he's introducing now. V'homayat hamanoach v'ta'aro ole al haluach shel hakashevet sod siach zimrat kodshenu. That is a very, very richly packed poetic line. But basically, what he's saying is that that there's a calling out from this interaction between the left and the right, meaning the polar opposites. There's a calling out of a pleasant song that's drawing the person closer. It's like it's like you're sitting in a silent room, and from the back you hear this very, very pleasant melody. You're just trying to get up and see where it's coming from. Haskira ha'anugit mirashemet b'kirbenu et ha'atama. It inculcates within us the adaptation, the hatama, like matim. There's able to be an integration, ha'idunit, that is gentle and pleasant. Shel shloshet hanikudot, which is represented by these 3 dots, hayamanit v'hasmalit, the right and the left, v'ha'elyona hama'achdatan, and the top dot, which brings them together, which unifies them. Klomar, which means to say, ruach ha'argasha v'hani'ima, the pleasant feeling, shel kol hashliliyut v'chol hachiyuviyut, all the negativity and all the positivity, u'makor ha'oneg shel ha'achdut amar mikol palgei nachalei ta'anugoteim, and the ability to join all of them together. Meaning, in order to appreciate the difficulties and the rewards for those difficulties, to experience them all in tandem. Meaning, not to say, oh, well, that was difficult, now I'm past that, I can forget it. No, it's able to be this collective experience of, oh, it was really, really difficult, and that produced this growth, or that was really, really challenging, and that produced this prize at the end. Even the negativity is able to be appreciated for what it its place in the process. Hasgula hanishmatit hazot. This is the sgula. This is the what's a good translation for sgula? This is the sorry, not the merit, but it is the unique inherent characteristic, which resides in the soul, hamakshevet et homiat hanoam, that is listening for the pleasant song, shel ha'achdut, shel hitachdut, of unification, ha'afachim, of opposites, that are extremely like opposed to each other, kitzonim, polar opposites. However, b'makor shelshan ha'elyon, in their supernal root, they're able to be unified. This is a theme that appears throughout Rav Kook's writings. And there's this theme called Kadosh HaElyon, the sublime holiness. There's holiness, and then there's a sublime holiness. What's a sublime holiness? A sublime holiness is at such a high place, so to speak, that it reaches the root of all disparity. So it's able to see how even things that seem like they're at polar opposites of each other, that they're opposed to each other, are really able to be unified. That's Kadosh HaElyon. It's a very, very powerful theme that Rav Kook discussed throughout his writings. This realization brings to us a tremendous delight. And our souls within us experience the beauty of this. I'll just paraphrase what I think is an appropriate translation. This ta'am, as we said in the beginning, the ta'amim are not letters; they're not forms in and of themselves. Rather, they're there to characterize the forms, or perhaps more precisely, they're there to characterize the words that we're saying. It's like the tone, right? The tone is everything, right? The tone in which I say something gives it the meaning. Either I'm saying it in an aggressive way, or I'm saying it in a loving way, or I'm saying it in a sarcastic way. The tone of what I'm saying is everything. It's the backdrop to what I'm saying. So this tam of the Munach Sagol is saying there that whatever information is being given over, whatever words are being said, even if the words seem to be disparate and opposed to each other, they can be unified with this place of through tapping into this place called the Kadosh Elyon, the supernal holiness. That the supernal holiness is the root of all things, and thereby can show how they can actually be unified. That is the Munach Sagol.
I was going to ask you to hum a few bars. I feel like if you listen to somebody going over the Talmud Mikra, you wouldn't be like blown away and think all these poetic thoughts.
No, you wouldn't. Could. So I'll tell you, it's subtle. There is no. There is subtlety over here for sure, because there's all the intellectual information backdrop to the thing, and then there's the experience of the thing. So the ideal, and this is I think very true in general in Torah, that we have a dual movement over here. We have the experience of the thing, a pure experiential interface, and then we have the learning and the knowledge that takes place to understand the significance of that thing. Usually it's a back and forth, right? Like usually we confront the experience and then we have to take a step back and review in our minds. It's like a debriefing. Sometimes you get the privilege of, well, here's the introduction to what you're about to experience. So when you go in, it'll be a little less intense. There's always a back and forth. So what Rav Kook is trying to give us, he's trying to give us the information for what is the significance behind the experience. So coming with this information to hearing the ta'amim, it can tap in a little bit.
And so the last thing you said,
or a lot of it.
Right. So the last thing you said, I know it's almost like you want to go back and check it out. It's almost saying like the two words of which that overlap with this note can somehow be unified.
Yes, yes, correct. That's why they come in pair. Well, so yes,
it's almost like giving us a hint to how to interpret words that we might have missed.
100%. So understanding, by the way, I forget we didn't actually give this example, but it's good to bring it in now because we're getting into the thick of it. There is a practice of understand. So it's a practice. There is a tool of analysis of understanding what is the message of a specific ta'am on a specific word. There is an area of study dedicated just to that, and that is something that can be studied. But again, there's tremendous subtlety there, and It's like after the words are understood, after the words are understood fully, then we can understand the tonal subtleties that are being communicated in the Ta'amim. There's a really good example of this that's given by the Gra in his commentary on Megillus Esther, when it's describing the women that are coming to Achashverosh's beauty pageant. So it says that when all of the women came, so the tam that is used is kadma va'azla, which we haven't gotten to yet. Kadma va'azla. Kadma va'azla means to get up and go. Kadma va'azla, get up and go. And it even sounds like that. Kadma va'azla. It's like getting up. They're getting up and going. Okay, so ubeagiatur na'ara and na'ara. When all of the maidens came, they all got up because they were very enthusiastic. Like, this is my shot. Right? Like this is like my once in a lifetime shot. So they were very enthusiastic. However, when it says that Esther had her turn, it's a series of ta'amim, which also we haven't also gotten to that yet, called munach. Munach. Okay, it's 3 munachs in a row, which is very rare. I don't think it occurs anywhere else. Certainly not in the Torah. Okay, ubiagia, torester, basavichayil. 3 munachs in a row to show munach. She was resting, like she was at rest, like she didn't want to go. She wasn't excited at all. So this is very explicit. If you have a sensitive ear to these things, you can appreciate how it's actually giving the tone to what the words are trying to say, which is also a layer of the message. So yes, for sure, 100%. Every word can, in theory, be analyzed based on the time, right? Based on the time that's there, that's being communicated. But just go ahead.
Would it be fair to say, since you start out with letters, you understand the words, and then you have the time, would it be fair to say, once you understand the letters, and then you understand the word, I mean, we didn't really do this, but is that something we could have gleaned from this Sefer? In other words, that each word is a thematic combination of the letters, and it gives you a deeper meaning to what the word means, and then from there, the timing gives you even another.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that is the message. That is the explicit Lashon HaKodesh. There are at least 4 layers of message that are being communicated in every word. There's the letters, there, right, slash words, right. There's the nekudot. There's the ta'amim. All those are distinct layers of communication.
Did the Grog give any examples of how
that's one example that I thought off the top of my head. Meaning of the different layers of communication of message.
Going from letters to a word, like this word. Like
break down the letters,
exactly.
The word.
Yeah, sure. The Gemara gives many examples of that, but that's actually a good example. MS. The Gemara in Shabbat says that the word MS is the joining of the first letter, the last letter, and the middle letter of the alphabet to show that MS. One of the characteristics of MS is that it's stable. Meaning, if you run with a lie, eventually things will break down. But MS has an inherent stability, which is why Sheker, on the other hand, right? And this is again, this is just one component of the letters of Sheker. They're all on one leg, right? Sheker is all right, exactly. It's inherently unstable. So that's not Rav Kook's thing. That's already in the Gemara.
That's on one side of the alphabet.
Right.
Correct. Exactly. They're all characterized by extremity, right? There's some type of extreme expression which is inherently unstable.
Otherwise known as journalism. You take one piece, a fact that is true,
100%.
You use it to characterize the entire event. You can say it's not true.
So just to bring it all home, So Rav Kook's take on this story that we started off with the Leviathan, I think is the most powerful expression of this idea. Just to give the last line on what Rav Kook is saying on the Tam itself. He's saying that what is the delight of rest? The delight of rest itself is the realization that there is no conflict. There's no conflict. When you're able to break through the facade of conflict, that leads to the ultimate rest, ultimate harmony, ultimate unity. So the idea of the sagol of, you have the left and the right and they're at war with each other. But then there's the nekuda elyon, the sublime point, and from that perspective, there is no conflict. That's what allows rest, and that's a rest not to produce some result in the future. It's not rest for something later on. It's inherently good. That rest is inherently good. That state of consciousness is inherently good in of itself. And it all comes from the segula that's embedded within the soul of access to this kedusha yonah, the sublime holiness that's able to work out apparent conflict even with things that are at odds with each other. And this showdown between the Leviathan and the Behemoth at the end of days is a play out, according to Rav Kook's interpretation, of this very thing. And this is also an idea. It's funny. This is the second example in our conversation where Rav Kook is drawing on a theme from the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says in Likutei Torah on Parsha Shmini that the war, so to speak, between the Leviathan and the Behemoth is representing the battle between two types of holiness. The Leviathan is representing the tzaddikim, that all of their work is in spiritual affairs. They're in the, it's like they're, in their cloistered in their room studying and praying, and like that's what they do. They're very much ensconced in the spiritual domain. And the Behemoth represents the tzaddik that is engaged fully in the world. Very different type of avoda. What? I don't know. I think that the Gra of all people is the prime example of the Leviathan, right? This is all very Jungian, by the way. I mean, it's not Jungian. You could say that Jungian is very Chabad, right? It's like he's right. No, I mean, this is a very powerful motif that comes up in his thing that things underneath the water are all talking about a sense of removal from the concrete and also the subconscious. So the idea that the Leviathan is this creature that lives underneath water, it means that it's removed. It's removed from the corporal world. Masha'en came the Behemoth, which requires shrita, as you pointed out. Right, in order to eat it, you need to shecht it. You need to go through this whole process in order to have access to it. It's a land that means it's engaged with the material world. In the end of days, there will be an ultimate showdown between these two things. Why? Because each one of these sides is convinced that the other one is the devil. Maybe that's a little extreme. They're convinced that the other side is wrong. But convinced, it's like, no, this is the way. You sit, you engage with the holy books, you pray, you meditate. Like that is the ultimate form of avoda, right? And there's a lot of truth to that. Right? But the other side is saying, no, we talk about God created the world. God created this place that we're supposed to engage in. All the mitzvahs require engagement with material things. I keep on quoting Rav Sadi Gaon and Sefer Yetzirah. Got really into this book recently. He says a powerful line. He says, "This is why the world is introduced before God." Which is right. He said, "Bereshis bara Elohim." In the beginning, the creation, God. Bereshis bara is before God. Right? It could have said Elohim bara Bereshis, that God created in the beginning. No, it doesn't say that. It says in the beginning was created by God, because the world comes before God, because there's no access point to God without the world. Right? It's a very powerful idea. So both of these modalities are at odds with each other, to the point that they're at war. They're in the arena, literally trying to kill each other. Right? It reaches a fever pitch. Yeah. But who's watching this take place? The tzaddikim. The tzaddikim, meaning there are people that their righteousness transcends this. They're the top dot of the segol, right? You have the two, right, the left and the right dot of the segol. They're also holding, right? It's not like they're
What's the middle?
What? The top, right? This top nakuda are the tzaddikim that are watching this. So these tzaddikim, they know that this war is just a show. That's their experience. They're watching it take place. It's a show. It's a spectacle. They're enjoying it. And that's why it says, if you didn't go to the gladiator arena in this world, this is what, because it's a type of thrill. It's like to see this work out with each other. I can tell you, right? Like, it's nice to watch these, like these movies that are all meant to give you a little bit of the experience of the real thing. Yes, in real life there is a little bit of a thrill. Unfortunately, when you look to your side and see that like people are getting hurt, so it like brings you back to reality a little bit. But there's a thrill associated with these things, and to tap into that is a bit exciting. That tzaddikim are able, right? The tzaddikim are able to view this argument as if it's a show, and it gives them tremendous pleasure to see. Oh, that guy has a point. It's true. It's good to be, cloistered and just retreat into the inner recesses of the soul. That guy also has a point. Yes, it's great to be engaged in God's world. Right? Yes. They're experiencing it as this tremendous delight. And the seuda is when both sides, they're not able to continue anymore. they just run out of strength, and they both collapse under their own weight, so to speak. And the tzaddikim are able to enjoy that seuda. That seuda is the reward of the supernal righteous law at level, and that is right, the ultimate, right, Yom Shekulo Shabbat. That's what Olam Haba is called, right? It's this day of rest. Rest means the ultimate rest is when the conflict, what we perceive as conflict itself, completely dissipates. It's just harmony.
Can we perhaps say that the people who didn't view this world as they're living it as this arena, because essentially this world is kind of like a sheker, but the truth is, if you have enough insight, you can see that it's all balance. That's the truth. It's all that. Then in the world to come, you'll see the balance. Not now. You'll see the balance in the world to come. When the veil completely drops.
The whole point is that it's not a black and white of now and then. We're constantly progressing more and more towards that point, and in our own personal experience, we can gain more and more access to that reality. Is it going to be perfect? No, it's not going to be perfect until there's like this cosmic and universal change. But each person on their own level is able to come closer and closer to this, realization. So, Yitzhak Koach. So hold on. Do we have a few minutes to do the?